Welcome, wandering souls, to the Athenaeum. My name is Inlicitus Cognitus. Here in my roost, we'll cover the madness beyond. If you quite enjoy that sort of thing, a link to my Patreon will be in the description. Extracted from a small excerpt in M's incident logs, a long journey using unmapped cave systems eastbound turned to slaughter. A group of heavily equipped mercenaries in the company Brigand d'Arth had fallen victim, the only survivors being non-combatants that fled from the flank of a caravan. Many of which are written to be untrustworthy in their accounts, as they are all post-interview dead or mad. Put to paper by one Gilead Birkin, scribe of Olmain, a mountain village, attests a dwarven woman, perhaps hill-bred. She'd seen the gallant mercenaries stall, realizing their forward scouts had not returned the signal. They stopped for perhaps half an hour, enough time to study the undermaps. To the horror of many a laborer and cartographer in the train, they'd finally reached Thorgar. The contractors were onto a mercantile band named 8 Stars Under, a rather mysterious band of plunderers that seek out relics, not from either Toril or any of its neighbor planes, but rather the far. The woman was strong in back and not too awful a map reader to boot. She said they'd gone for an expert worker base. Whether by madness or misconception, she further elaborated they'd brought a large cage clad in cold steel, with a fine reddish hue that she imagined to be adamantine plating. It wasn't long after the stop that she said she'd found her peers dead or dying, their heads hollowed out from the face. In the chaos, several bodies crashed into the ceiling above in the massive underground complex with force enough to maim. None of the caravan has since been physically recovered. Gilead further notes, this woman of the many survivors was the most collected, and with some prying, he says perhaps a few truthful documents can be procured from her senses. And, as a side note, he says perhaps it was the awful Dark Elves or a Mind Flayer. That is to end a quote. This is actually the known record of the Uvuudaum. Rarely seen, if ever encountered, few live to tell of this waking nightmare. Often draped in outlandish robes and craven fabrics made from incomprehensible materials, the Uvuudaum is a large-size apparition, or outsider. Despite their crawling nature, they span 9 to 11 feet. While the beings vary from one to another, their anatomy is as follows. 2 humanoid arms capable of complex interactions, including spellcasting, a torso with flexible vertebrae and wiry muscle. The lower body was more centaur-like, where 6 arms allowed spider-like locomotion, sometimes ending in functioning hands, or, for the unlucky, barbed insectoid claws. The head, if anyone dared consider it that, was a stinger that lurched and whipped several feet beyond the height of this abomination, ending in a black, metallic spike or beak. Their skin is often translucent with corpulent patterns and varicose veins surging with black blood, causing an ashen blush. They lack mouths or eyes, instead using a sixth sense or blind sight to detect prey, and telepathy to converse. All this to say, their forms constantly shift and disseminate with fractures of inverse time, and ripple against reality like water's edge. Uvuudaum culture is a mysterious subject, likely debated amongst ancient dragon scholars and even the Abeloth. In the shattered hierarchy of the far realms, the Uvuudaum participate as insane lords and barons of chaos. This alone makes them near godly compared to contemporary creatures, missionaries of insanity, traveling in either small groups, known simply as a madness, or alone. Powerful supernatural casters, they hold no value for the arcane arts, as to them it is an innate ability. As a spider can mend an array of webs, so too can the Uvuudaum weave magic into reality. Possessing blind sight and telepathy up to 500 feet, these beings prove to be truly horrific predators in the material plane, honing in on intelligent creatures and forcing them to learn the forbidden truths of a twisted dimension Those who oppose will be driven to madness or drained of wisdom, a terrible fate, as their ability to make sense of reality is consumed while they are subjected to wretched blasphemy. With a challenge rating anywhere from 17 to 20, these beasts prove a terrible foe to most any party. What makes them truly frightening is their awesome array of innate spellcasting and horrific aura of madness, accompanied with a wisdom drain. Their stinger-like head can take the life of a foe and rejuvenate the Uvuudaum. Drawing from a few compendiums penned by Tarangal, the Copper Dragon, they have powers such as Time Stop, Teleportation, Haste, Greater Dispel Magic, Empowered Chain Lightning, and truly alien conjuration, such as Nailed to the Sky, requiring a willpower save, lest the target will be flung into the atmosphere of their world, suffering all the extremes of being in orbit, and will remain in the eternal orbit without the ability to fly or return to the surface on their own, requiring a rescue lest they become feed for mooncalves. Or, in a particularly close fight, they can use Time Duplicate, tearing into the multiple realities to manifest an alternate version of the Uvuudaum, with all the same abilities, possessions, and knowledge, bar any differences from their alternate probability, doubling up a creature's single turn as both versions take their actions simultaneously. After one turn, the future self returns to their time stream, while the present remains. Food for thought. You may encounter these beings in subterranean vaults or long-forgotten ruins. They could even be deities that local tribes subscribe under. Perhaps one of your warlocks earns enough favor with an outer god and ushers an Uvuudaum into the material world as a prophet of the inane heresies. The possibilities are quite ripe. So, as you can imagine, this being will trip up even the most studious adventurer, and is a wonderful enigma to witness, nonetheless, even in a non-combative encounter. That will cover all the information I have available on this creature. I hope you enjoyed listening, and I bid you well on your excursion from my library. Till next time.